Good to see you all here. To all of you that are attending live and to everybody that's watching the replay, welcome to our community, our free community support group, which happens on the second Thursday of every month, which is tonight. I hope you're all having a great August. If you don't know, PBNSG is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to educating individuals and empowering them to choose a whole food, plant-based lifestyle in order to prevent and reverse their chronic disease and achieve optimal health, right? That's why many of us are here, and PBNSG is an amazing place to do that. Another amazing part of PBNSG are all the support group hosts that are here. So as a member, if you're a member here, you have access to at least 12 different support groups every month that meet 1 hour every month. There's a support group for heart disease, diabetes, gut health, pain management, inflammation. I happen to lead the inflammation group on the first Tuesday of every month. I would love to see you there. In my group, we have cooking demos and special speakers. So I just want to remind you that you have access to a ton of information here and live support groups. If you go to the PBNSG homepage, there's a green button there that says view upcoming events, and that's where you will see everything, including the support groups that are coming up. So again, this is the free monthly community group. My name, by the way, is Sid Notter, and I've been also teaching whole food plant-based nutrition for over 25 years now. I'm a past newspaper columnist. I'm certified under Dr. Campbell and Dr. Bernard and Dr. McDougall. And I would love to have you visit my website as well, sidnotter.com. I've got a free webinar there called 3 Food Mistakes That Most People Are Making and a free meal plan and all sorts of things. So check that out if you get a chance. And then I want to tell you of some things that are coming up here next Thursday night, August 15th. Dr. Kiri O'Connor will be here to talk about understanding and improving your triglycerides. So that'll be very interesting. Thursday, August 29th, Jeff Nelson will be here. And his topic is called My Father Married a Meatpacking Heiress. So that should be very interesting. And then again, on September 19th, we have a big live event with Dr. Neil Barnard, and that'll be happening in Birmingham, Michigan. And I believe there are still tickets available for that. Is that right? Paul Chatlin's here, our founder.
Yes. It's at Birmingham Seaholm High School. If Rochelle, Lynn, and Lavita, if you're in Michigan area, I would recommend you come. It's going to be a memorable, magical evening. And the doors will open at 6, so you can spend an hour meet and greeting or finding a great seat. And Dr. Neil Bernard will be the highlight speaker, but I have some additional surprises for everyone because this is the first live event we've had in 4 years. So we do have tickets available, but they are going pretty fast. So I'd like to just invite you to come and enjoy the magic of this moment. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right. So before I introduce tonight's speaker, her name is Denise Rose. I'll tell you more about her. If you have any questions for Denise as we go along tonight, please type those in the chat box, and then we will definitely get to those at the end. All right. So again, this is Denise Rose will be presenting tonight for plant-based, whole food plant-based for optimal brain health, how to get started. And Denise is an enthusiastic educator who's been teaching whole food plant-based nutrition for several years. She also has a YouTube channel with her husband. It's called Happy Vegan Couple. And I've got the link to that over there in the chat box right now. On their YouTube channel, they post whole food plant-based cooking videos to help plant-based eaters learn how to cook delicious, healthy foods in their own kitchens. And Denise also shares long-form interviews with people who have transitioned to a plant-based lifestyle and they received major health benefits due to making that change. So welcome to you, Denise. We're so excited to hear your presentation.
Thanks so much, Sid. And let's see, I don't see myself on the screen. Do you want to maybe highlight me? Do you know how to do that?
Yes, I can do that. Yep.
Spotlight.
I will spotlight you. Absolutely.
All righty. All right, there I see myself. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I'm so happy that you're here. I hope you'll find this a very interesting presentation. But first, let me just tell you a little bit more about myself, my background, how I am in front of you today. So my story with whole food plant-based eating really started in 2012 when I was 60. I'm 72 years old now. And when I watched this wonderful documentary called Forks Over Knives, that is where I learned about the concept of whole food plant-based eating, and that if people would switch from a standard American diet with all that animal protein, processed foods, too much, sugar, salt, fat, refined grains, if they would switch to a low-fat, whole food plant-based diet, oh my gosh, they could reduce their risk for chronic disease, and some diseases could even be halted and reversed. Why that information was so important to me was because I had sick parents with these diseases that I learned could be potentially prevented and even reversed. My father had heart disease, died of that, had it for 30 years, also had advanced Parkinson's. My mother had many things, but the worst was Alzheimer's. Over 15 years, I watched her lose her mind. So it was very distressing. And the great thing for me at 72, I don't have any of my parents' diseases. Genetics didn't rule, lifestyle. And so my lifestyle with plant-based eating started a little earlier than a lot of people, though not completely. At 21, I was a vegetarian. That's when I became a vegetarian. And that was because of my compassion for animals. And I didn't really get the dairy part, so I was eating dairy up until the age of 60. And then when I watched Forks Over Knives and I learned the knowledge that any animal protein, whether meat or dairy, could possibly promote cancer, cause other diseases, I was done with the dairy and the eggs. I didn't even eat that much of it. The very next day is when I went fully vegan, 100% whole food plant-based. And then I said to myself, you know what? I know my parents never heard this knowledge when my father had heart disease, so I'm going to learn it and I'm going to teach it. And that's why I'm here in front of you today. The last 12 years, I've been, immersing myself in all the knowledge that's being shared by all our doctors, dietitians, advocates, even Paul Tatlin, of course. And I've learned so much, and I love to teach. I am a sociologist by training, Ph.D. sociologist. And so I learned everything, and I've been teaching for several years in person and on Zoom. And so that's a little bit of my background. Okay, so the presentation that I'm going to do today, actually on brain health, is based on the knowledge shared by two neurologists that I've been following for several years now, and I bet some of you might know who they are, Dean and Aisha Sharzai. And the knowledge that I'm going to share to you is actually coming from their second book, which was released a couple of years ago, The 30-Day Alzheimer's Solution. And this is kind of the backbone of my talk today. And so I am going to share my screen and we're going to get started, okay? Eating for brain health, how to get started. And as Sid mentioned, I do have a YouTube channel that I just wanted, again, to let you know, called Happy Vegan Couple. And as she told you, cooking videos, that's the main thing we do on there. And I hope you'll look it up after our presentation. And I'm also on Facebook, where I just post informational things every now and then. So as I mentioned, this presentation is based on the nutritional advocacy of the neurologists and researchers, Drs. Aisha and Dean Sharzai. And I hope you'll check out their book, because you'll learn a lot more detail than I'm able to share in this, time-restricted presentation today. So first, I would just like you to hear a little bit from Dr. Aisha Sharzai. Out of the two, as you see their picture there, Dean and Aisha, Aisha is typically the one who speaks about nutrition. So I'm going to just share you a little quick clip where she's talking about why eating this way can help you so much. It's a very quick little clip. So let's listen to that next. Whoops, I'm sorry, I went too fast. Let me go back.
Kind of highlight some of the important aspects of each of
Whoops, just gotta raise the volume here a little bit.
the elements of neuro. So let's start with nutrition.
I'm sorry, it's like let me get that. I'm another screen's coming up for me when I keep doing this. Okay, there we go.
My favorite. So the goal is to improve our dietary pattern in this country, around the world, to eat more unprocessed, more plant-based foods. And even though it feels sometimes that nutrition is complicated, it actually isn't. You know, there's a lot of data and a lot of information that have come to us over decades showing us that when people eat an unprocessed plant-based diet, they have the best looking brains, they have the best functioning brains, they have the lowest risk of Alzheimer's disease, stroke, and other neurological diseases that Dean and I are studying right now. Now, when you look at the summary of the data coming to us, it looks.
Okay, so I'm ending the clip right here, but this is what we're going to be talking about, what you see on the screen right now. These are kind of some of the main elements of why it is a brain healthy diet. And I truly love, what she said about people think nutrition is complicated, but it's really not, because we have so much evidence to show that what they're talking about works. And you'll hear a little bit more about that in a moment. So in this presentation, you will discover the healthiest vegan whole plant foods to eat for optimal brain health. And guess what? It works for cardiovascular health too, because our vascular system, heart, brain, all very similar. So it works for, all these different body organs. You're going to learn the minimum amount of these foods to eat on a daily basis. So hopefully you'll want to eat more, but this is at least the minimum to have a healthy brain. And then examples of dishes using these healthy foods. So before we go on to the bulk of this presentation, I do want you to hear a little bit more from Dr. Aisha Sharzai as she shares the findings of several studies showing that eating all or mostly healthy plant food over animals and processed food lowers your risk of dementia and cognitive decline. So this is a little bit longer clip. I'm just gonna, let's see if I can find my video here. Oh, I can't even find my video here. I was gonna take me off the screen, but I can't seem to find that. So we're just gonna go to that now.
Lifestyle can turn on and off those genes for Alzheimer's disease. The Chicago Health and Aging Project, a very robust data, longitudinal, which means they follow people for a long period of time. They looked at 2,500 individuals, and they found out that those who consumed higher amounts of saturated fats and trans fatty acids over a period of 6 years increased their risk of Alzheimer's disease compared to those who consumed fats derived from plants. The Adventist Health Study in Loma Linda University, where we work, that's a blue zone. Back in 1993, Dr. Paul Guillaume, he looked at the data. Anybody knows about the concept of blue zones? I guess, okay, good, wonderful. So Loma Linda is a population where it has equal number of vegetarians and non-vegetarians, phenomenal opportunity to study the effect of diet. And he found that in a group of 3,000 individuals, those who consumed meat, including poultry and fish, had twice the risk of dementia compared to those who were vegetarians. And when you parse out the diet score, you see that saturated fats and processed foods seem to be the driving force behind the disease. In 2009, Kaiser Permanente Northern California study, 9,900 patients. They found that people who had high cholesterol levels that was not treated had 57% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. And even in individuals who had borderline high cholesterol, the type where the doctor tells them, like, you have high cholesterol, but I'm not going to give you any medication, just taps them on their back to say, go ahead and eat healthy food and not really give them guidance, they increase their risk of Alzheimer's disease by 23%. Women's health study from Harvard University. 6,000 women followed for 4 years. Higher saturated fat intake was associated with the fastest decline in memory by 70% compared to women who consumed poly and monounsaturated fats derived from plants. And they looked at their brain function as well. So they did neuropsychological testing. And women who had the lowest saturated fat intake had better brain function. And they had the function of the brains of women 6 years younger. And they did neuroimaging later on as well. Their brains actually looked better and bigger. There was no shrinkage. I had the opportunity to study this concept at Columbia University with my mentors, and we found out that in a large population, a plant-based diet caused a lower risk of developing dementia and Alzheimer's disease over a span of 6 years, compared to those who ate a SAD diet, a standard American diet. Now, the MIND diet came from Rush University Memory and Aging Project by Dr. Martha Morris. She looked at this particular hybrid of a diet, looking at Mediterranean and DASH combined, to see how it affects, risk of Alzheimer's disease. And the MIND diet promotes essentially a plant-based diet, and it limits meat and sources of saturated fats. And she found that people who adhered, tightly to this dietary pattern, they reduced their risk of Alzheimer's disease by 53%, which is incredible. What diet does that? And even moderate adherence to the diet was associated with a 35% reduced risk. And people who showed high adherence had the cognitive function equivalent of someone who was 7.5 years younger. You see the theme? It just continues, right? It's the same repetition of the concept. And Dean and I looked at...
Okay, so I ended the clip here, but shouldn't that make you excited and encouraged to follow their advice because of what the studies show? Now, I do want to share with you one recent study. This was not done by the Chargais. In case you haven't heard of this, this was just published in June of this year. This was a study done by Dr. Dean Ornish, who has also done some very other important studies on heart health and prostate cancer, and he worked with some other people on this. So I just did a little cut and paste just to show you real quickly a few things about this wonderful study that came out recently, which was titled Lifestyle Changes Significantly Improve Cognition and Function in Early Alzheimer's Disease for the First Time in a Randomized Controlled Trial. So if we look up here first, it says this peer-reviewed study was directed by lifestyle medicine pioneer Dr. Dean Ornish, founder and president of the nonprofit Preventive Medicine Research Institute and clinical professor of medicine at UFC San Francisco. And he worked with some other people. And then going here just to the San Francisco, June 7th, 2024, for the first time, a randomized controlled clinical trial has demonstrated that an intensive lifestyle intervention without drugs significantly improved cognition and function after 20 weeks in many patients with mild cognitive impairment or early dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. And then it just down here, it was a small study. They recruited 51 participants with a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment or early dementia due to Alzheimer's, and they randomly assigned them to either an intensive lifestyle intervention group, no drugs added, or just your usual care control group with none of that intensive lifestyle. And members of the control group were instructed not to make any lifestyle changes. And so basically what they found is that people in the lifestyle intervention group definitely lowered their risk of this disease and had better cognitive scores, after they went through this intensive treatment. So it's very similar to what the Chargais are advocating as well, and what other research has found too. So in their book, their second book, the Chargais say there are 7 nutritional rules that they believe evidence shows would support a super healthy brain. 1, eat a plant-based diet and the NEURO 9 foods every day. And that's what we're going to talk about in this presentation. So NEURO is actually an acronym that the Chargais have created to discuss their whole lifestyle program. So the N stands for nutrition, which of course is what we're going to talk about today. But you can also, by following them, and I'll be giving you all their contact information at the end of the talk, so you can follow them and learn more. But the rest of the acronym stands for this. E stands for exercise, U for unwind, meaning stress management, R for restful sleep, making sure you get enough, and O for optimizing your brain. And you know what they say about that? It's not just doing chores like gardening or cooking. They say, really, the real way you optimize your brain is through challenging, complex activities And if you can do them with other people, so much the better. So like playing music, that's what I've done in the recent years. I've joined bands and I'm playing percussion. And so that's what they would advise. Okay, so the other rules are avoid all foods high in saturated fat. So that's all your animal foods and your processed foods. Avoid refined carbs and sugar. Again, a lot of processed foods. That's your white flour, white rice, you know, and sugar in everything. Reduce your salt and season instead your food with herbs and spices. Avoid processed foods because those are the ones that typically have so much unhealthy levels of sugar, salt, and often unhealthy fats that are saturated. Drink water as your main beverage and eat homemade meals cooked so you can control your ingredients and make your food really healthy. So what are the healthiest vegan foods for brain health? Well, Dr. Aisha and Dean Sharzai advocate that we eat specific food groups every day in certain quantities for the best brain health. So let's take a look at their advice. So the pictures here in the middle are the 9 categories of 9 foods that they say we should all eat every single day. And let's look at what they say why. These 9 foods were derived from the list of foods ranked on the anti-inflammatory index, and those that have been investigated and proven to be beneficial for brain health in large epidemiological studies. And of course, like I said, you can learn a lot more detail about all this if you read their book. So let's go into what these categories actually are. And I did ask the Sharzais, was there a rating of the 9 foods? Like one is the most important. And they told me they're all important. So just eat all of this every day, okay? So the first category they mentioned is greens, and especially your dark green leafy veggies, such as kale, watercress, Swiss chard, collard greens, arugula, and spinach. Second category are whole grains, not refined, but whole, such as oats, quinoa, brown rice, wheat berries, farro, barley, buckwheat, whole wheat pasta, or 100% whole wheat bread. Now, I just want to mention to you that while a piece of 100% whole wheat bread certainly fits into this whole grain category, you should know, though, that eating the whole grains, which would be all these others above the bread, will actually give you more nutritional health for a couple of reasons. One is the whole grains are not processed like the bread. And when the wheat is processed into bread, you have faster digestion. And when that happens, you can actually get a little like a blood sugar spike and an insulin spike. So that's why our doctors really want to help us understand that eating the whole grains is actually better for our health. Now, I made this chart. This does not come from the Sharzais. And the reason I made this chart is when I teach, I want to show people that there are a lot of whole grains out there. And while many people are very familiar with brown rice, and that might be the main grain they eat, or maybe quinoa, because they've heard of those too, I just want you to see that some of these other grains have significantly more nutrition than even the brown rice. So I decided to look at just fiber and protein, same serving sizes of all these grains. And you can quickly look, like if you see the hulled barley, and I can buy that at a store called Natural Grocers. I don't know if you have that by you. You might find it online. So it's actually more nutritious than pearl barley, which is what is more common in grocery stores. But look at the hulled barley, 8 grams of fiber compared to rice, brown rice, which is 3 or 2, and 6 grams of protein versus the 3 and 3 of the rice. And you can see those other grains are more than the rice as well. So I hope that will encourage you to check out some of these other grains. And the other part is that what we have learned from something called the American Gut Project is that we want to have plant diversity for our microbiome and eat 30 different plants per week. And so the more you diversify the plants you eat, the better for your gut, because you're feeding it different kinds of fiber that the bacteria in your gut will enjoy eating. All right, the third category, very important, seeds, especially ground flax seeds and chia seeds, because this is where we get our omega-3 fatty acids. And the Chargé say we need this every single day for our brain. Our bodies don't make this on their own. We need to get these omega-3s from food. And so flax seeds and chia seeds are two of the greatest sources for this. Now, if you haven't had flaxseed yet, I want to just give you this tip. You can buy them whole, where they're these little hard seeds, or you can buy it ground. But a lot of our doctors actually suggest that we do not buy it ground, because the oils in the seeds actually start to degrade from heat and light. And the idea is, if it's already ground, when you buy it and you open it up, you might start getting more degradation, where you wouldn't have that happen if you left the seed hard and whole and just ground it at home, like in a little coffee grinder. So what I do in my house is, like, I have a little jar about this big, and I grind enough flaxseed to put in that jar. I put that in my fridge, and I have that for maybe 5 days, because every day I eat like 2 tablespoons of flaxseed. And then when I finish my jar, I grind some more. Now, chia seeds, you actually do not have to grind to get the nutrition from them. But I learned from Dr. Greger, if you know him, at nutritionfacts.org, that if you do grind your chia seeds, you'll actually get more nutrition from them. Okay? All right, our fourth category, beans and legumes. This is our wonderful plant protein group. And did you know, even the American College of Cardiology, which is the group that trains cardiologists, they created a graphic a couple of years ago. And on that graphic, they say plant protein is more heart healthy than animal protein. So why would we eat any animal protein when we know that? And that's coming from our cardiologists. And again, I told you, cardiology, brain, all very similar. So eat your plant protein. There's so many kinds, many varieties of beans, lentils, split peas, and all the new soy products that we have, like tofu, tempeh, edamame, the little green soybeans, and even soy milk. Now, here's another tip. What we do in our house to make this way of eating really manageable. We'll get our Instant Pot or electric pressure cooker, and we'll cook up a whole pot of beans, and then a whole pot of some whole grain. And then we'll put that in our refrigerator for 5 days or a week, however long it takes us to eat it. And then anytime we're hungry, we just have that in the fridge, and we can already take it out and make a quick meal real quick. So that Instant Pot, is a really great device, or you could cook it on the stove as well. But make a big pot so you'll have it, for several days. Now, maybe some of you don't know how to cook tofu, right? Because you've never really figured that out. Well, guess what? On our YouTube channel, Happy Vegan Couple, we did, that's my husband in the picture there. He's really the main cook in my house. He's a great cook. We show 2 really easy ways to cook tofu. And I hope you look that up, because like I said, they're very simple, and tofu is an extremely healthy thing to eat as long as you don't have a soy allergy. Okay, so the 5th category we want to talk about from the Chargés are berries. Blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, raspberries. And another tip, instead of just buying fresh, which I used to do, now, because I'm a Costco member, I go to Costco and I buy these big bags of frozen organic fruit, berries, mango, strawberries. And they're more affordable that way. And they're actually delicious, because they're frozen right after harvest. So we're not even letting all the nutrients degrade, because you buy fresh, first it has to get to the store, then it has to get to your house, then you have to, you eat it right away. So this is frozen fruit is actually a great way to get your nutrition and save some money. Okay, 6 is our nut category, such as walnuts, which again, like chia seeds, like flax seeds, has omega-3 fatty acids in them, but other nuts as well, like almonds and cashews. And if you're not aware of this yet, cashews have a wonderful ability to make really creamy, delicious sauces. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. 7th category is our cruciferous vegetables. Oh my gosh, these are so important to us. because they are amazing cancer protection because of a chemical in there called sulforaphane. So these are things like broccoli, cauliflower, bok choy, green and red cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and even some of our leafy greens are crucifers, kale, collards, arugula. So these are so important to eat every day, but I'm going to share a tip with you on how you can get the most of that sulforaphane, the cancer protection, when you want to eat these veggies. I learned this from Dr. Greger over at nutritionfacts.org, by the way. So 3 tips to boost sulforaphane for cancer protection when you want to cook your cruciferous veggies. So the one we do in my house, really, most of the time is the number 1, which we call hack and hold. So this is what it means. Let's say I go to the store and I buy some fresh cauliflower and I want to cook it that day. So what we're going to do in my house is we're going to take that cauliflower, put it on our counter and cut it up. And when we cut it up, we're breaking the cell walls. Then we're going to let that cauliflower just sit on the counter. Or if we don't want to cook it today, want to cook it a couple days, we'll just put it in the fridge after we cut it. But once it's cut and it's not put on the stove yet, within 40 minutes, a chemical reaction will happen with this enzyme that has not been destroyed by heat. And that enzyme will help boost that sulforaphane. So when you do go ahead and cook it, you will get that extra cancer protection. So the idea is cut, sit, and then cook. Now, let's say you don't have time to do that. You're hungry, you want to eat, right? Well, there's 2 other hacks we learned you can do. And then basically it is that you go ahead and cook your main amount of it, but then you want to add a little bit of some raw cruciferous with the cooked, and somehow magically our body in digestion will still apparently boost the sulforaphane of the cooked because they're using the raw to help that happen. I don't understand how that happens, biologically speaking or chemistry, but we've been told it works. So mustard powder is actually cruciferous because mustard greens are a cruciferous vegetable. So if you like that flavor, you could throw some mustard powder on your cooked cruciferous that you did not have time to sit on the counter. Or you could eat a little raw with the cook. So I'll usually do either number 1, or if I don't have time, I'll do 3. So that would mean I go ahead and cook my cauliflower. I didn't let it hack and hold, but I'll take a little bit of cauliflower where I did not put it on the heat, the raw, and I'll just eat the raw with the cooked, and somehow that sulforaphane hopefully is going to get boosted. Okay, so that's some little tips for you. All right, the 8th category is tea. And they say green, white, black, oolong, but you probably have heard green tea has some really great compounds in there, antioxidants that are known for its health benefits. So if you enjoy green tea, go ahead. You might want to prioritize that a little bit because of those wonderful phytochemicals, which means plant compounds in your tea. And then our final category that they speak about are herbs and spices. And especially turmeric, which you might have heard is an anti-inflammatory spice because of a compound in there called curcumin. But research has also found that whenever you want to use turmeric on your food, if you add some black pepper, you actually boost the bioavailability of that curcumin and you will get more anti-inflammatory protection. So just remember, add a little black pepper. But they also want us to remember that all these other spices are so healthy for us because spices have antioxidants in them and other plant chemicals, and they're all really great for our health. And they can also be part of that eating 30 different plants a week. Spices and herbs count for that as well. Now, aside from those 9 categories, Doctors Isa and Jean Sharzai also created another list of 20 plants that we should eat for best brain health that's in their book, and they call this the Thoughtful 20. So just because of time right now, I'm not going to go really into any of these. I just want to name them for you. So again, these are, more foods that we want to get into our body on a regular basis. So again, some of them are repetitive of the 9 categories, like leafy greens, broccoli, right, the cruciferous, blueberries, mushrooms, beets, avocados, olives, nuts, especially walnuts, seeds, again, like flaxseed, chia seeds, beans and legumes, quinoa, oats, green tea, turmeric and other spices, cacao. So that would be like getting unsweetened cacao powder, herbs, sweet potatoes, soy, Brussels sprouts, and goji berries. I just actually went and ordered some goji berries because of them. And I want to just mention here what they say: examples of ultra-processed foods, saturated fats, and trans fats should be avoided or very limited. And these include processed sugar, white flour, packaged snacks and sweets, red meat, processed meats, cheeses high in saturated fats, butter, coconut oil. Coconut oil is very saturated, as is palm oil. We don't want to put that in our bodies. And they remind us that alcohol is neurotoxic, and its high use has been associated with increased risk of brain atrophy, which is shrinking your brain, and ultimately dementia. So give up the alcohol. All right, so now that we know what the 9 major food groups we should eat every day, as long as some of those 20, let's find out, especially for the Neuro 9 now, how much of these foods that we should consume daily if we want to strive for optimal brain health. So I created a chart. They actually suggest in their book that people make a chart, and I made one. Now, if you guys know about Dr. Greger's daily dozen list, I got the idea from his chart to make a chart similar. His is also like what foods to eat every day, and he's got a little list so you can be accountable to yourself and mark them off. So I did the same thing for the Sharzai's food. So I just want to remind you, minimum, this is what they're saying is the minimum amount to eat every day. So let's start with green leafy veggies. They suggest that research shows us that we should eat 3 servings a day. And the way you know a serving is if it's still raw, like you're going to maybe eat it in a salad, raw is 1 cup. But if you want to cook it, it's a half a cup. So let's say, you start your day, with a half a cup of cooked greens with something. And then you could come over here if you make a chart like this, and you could fill in your little happy face, and you already did 1 serving for the day, and you just got 2 to go. So that's kind of how this chart could work for you. Whole grains, they suggest 3 servings a day. A cooked is a half a cup, or you could have like a slice of 100% whole wheat bread as a serving. Seeds are 2 servings, 2 tablespoons per serving. So that's like your flax and your chia again. But you could also eat other seeds, once you make sure you get those omega-3 fatty acids, some other seeds have that, like hemp seeds have that as well. But you also might like pumpkin seeds or sesame seeds. I mean, there's different kinds of seeds that are really healthy for us. And then here's our protein group. Again, our plant protein. I mean, all our food has protein, but our legume group has the most protein. So that's why we kind of call it the protein group. 3 servings a day. So you get, enough protein for your body. A half a cup cooked. Or if you want to eat something where it's more condensed, like hummus, which is, made out of chickpeas, garbanzo beans, same thing, it's a 1/4 cup. So your berries, 1 serving at least a day, either a half a cup fresh or frozen. At least 1 serving of nuts a day, a 1/4 cup. 2 servings a day of those beautiful anti-cancer cruciferous veggies. 1 cup is a serving, so you want to have 2 of those cups a day. And at least 1 serving of tea. And if you like that green tea, I'd go for that first. And then your herbs and spices, and at least try to get that turmeric in your body for that anti-inflammation, 1/4 teaspoon. So now you know what the foods are that give us great brain health. You've heard the minimum amount of servings we should do each day. And you're like, okay, well now, how do I make this get into my body every day? Well, in their book, they actually have a whole lot of recipes, and they give you examples with those recipes, like that this fits in the Neuro 9, like 3 of these ingredients are part of Neuro 9. So I did a similar thing, but with kind of the food that I eat typically, in my diet. It's all whole food plant-based, but you know, we all have our just different ways of the things we like. So I'm going to show you like some other examples of how to do this, and you'll discover how easy it can be. So let's start with breakfast. Oatmeal, berries, cinnamon, flaxseed, walnuts, soy milk. All those things are in my breakfast. And then I can have a cup of green tea. So let me now show you how that fits into the Neuro 9. So my oatmeal is a whole grain. My blueberries fits in their berry category, flaxseed seeds, cinnamon, herbs and spices. My soy milk is part of legumes. Walnuts are part of nuts and tea part of tea. Look how easy that is, how I got hit so many ingredient categories just in that one meal. Now, I just want to mention to you a little bit about oatmeal, because not everybody even knows what the healthiest type of oatmeal is. What I eat every day is the actual whole grain of the oat, which is called oat groats. You can't find them in most grocery stores, but again, I have this Natural Grocers by me, and I can buy them there very easily. And these are the ones that have the least processing, so they'd be the gold. Steel cut oats, which many of you might know, and you can find these in almost all grocery stores, would be second best. It's just the oat groats with them cut, I think, in half. Now, rolled oats have more processing, and that's why we call it third best. I used to eat years ago rolled oats until I understood this whole thing about whole grains and not having that much processing. So I gave up my rolled oats and went to the oat groats. And I would suggest you try that too if you're still at rolled oats. What we really want to avoid for sure are the instant oats, because it's like flour. It's very, quickly digested, and the processing will take out some of those nutrients. So you really want to avoid that. And if you want to see how I make my oatmeal, we do have a video on our Happy Vegan Couple where I show you my whole way I start my day with my oatmeal breakfast, and then what I even do after that, which is coming up next. So after I do my oatmeal bowl, when I get hungry next, what I go to is a bowl of beans. Could be any kind of bean, pinto, black, cannellini, whatever. And then I throw in some greens, low oxalate, like kale, arugula, or collards, because with low oxalate, I can also absorb my calcium. Calcium's in a bunch of these greens, as long as it's not a high oxalate like spinach or Swiss chard. And then I use cashews that I talked about before, making a creamy sauce. We make something called cashews cheese spread, and that makes everything taste yummy. And I put about a tablespoon or a little less of that in my bowl of beans and greens, and it's really delicious, and I could have some more tea. So this is how that fits in Neuro 9. Pinto beans, or my bean, whatever bean I eat for the day, is my legumes. I've got my low oxalate greens for leafy greens, and my cashew cheese spread fits into nuts. And basically, I just put all that in a bowl, I microwave it for a minute, and then I find it delicious. And if you want to learn how to make this yummy cashew cheese spread, we also have a video for that on YouTube as well. It's so easy, delicious, and it's versatile. I actually use this for my salad dressing. I just take a little bit out of my, Tupperware, add a little water in a mug, and I make a creamy salad dressing that's kind of like a ranch looking, and it's absolutely delicious. And cashews have all that nutrition, fiber and protein and vitamins and minerals. So why not use that rather than oil, which is basically pure fat, right? You don't need that for a salad dressing. Eat something that has more nutrition in it. So now lunch, maybe I'm going to have some creamy mushroom soup with wild rice. That's actually what I had for today for lunch. That's a recipe on our YouTube channel that comes from Dr. Joel Furman. Absolutely delicious. And this is some of the major ingredients in that fit into Neuro 9. Wild rice is a whole grain, cannellini beans, legumes, raw cashews, nuts, hemp seeds. And these three last one, the beans, the cashews, and the hemp seeds, this is what makes that soup unbelievably yummy and delicious because of those three ingredients. Then some herbs and spices, thyme and black pepper, and even mushrooms, which were in the Thoughtful 20 list. Now, I might also want to have some whole grain bread with avocado and arugula along with my soup. And then that will fit into the bread whole grains. The avocado is part of the Thoughtful 20. Arugula is a leafy green and a cruciferous. So it hits two stones at once. And then maybe I want a little dessert or a treat. And you probably have maybe heard of nice cream. That's what plant-based eaters, we don't eat dairy ice cream anymore, right? We don't want that animal protein and the saturated fat in that. So we make this wonderful ice cream in our blender or food processor out of frozen bananas, unsweetened cacao, and soy milk. You could also add a date if you like something a little sweeter. I don't even need the date. And it actually tastes like chocolate soft serve. So you can just Google if you want whole food plant-based ice cream, and you'll find some links that will show you how to make that. So the cacao is part of the Thoughtful 20. Soy milk is a legume. And as I said, you can look on YouTube about how to make this if you don't know already. So what about dinner now? Now, dinner is where I typically eat a big salad. If you ever heard of Joel Fuhrman and you follow him, his big thing is a salad every single day for, great health. And a lot of our doctors would agree with that. So you can, of course, make salads in many different ways. And I'm just going to show you some of the ingredients that I always put in my salads. So, of course, a combo of various greens, lettuce, spinach, kale, beet greens, whatever kind of green you like. And then I always put in some cruciferous veggies, raw or cooked, like cauliflower or broccoli, red cabbage, another cruciferous, some cooked mushrooms, beets. And then I, of course, want to get my plant protein in there to make, get some more protein in my body, also make my salad more satiating, keep me full longer. So I might add some beans or lentils or edamame or tofu. Maybe I'll add some pumpkin or hemp seeds, or whole grain like quinoa, or maybe I have another whole grain in my fridge like my hulled barley that I'll add in my salad. And then, like I said, I'll use my cashew cheese spread for my salad dressing because it just makes it so absolutely delicious. Now, this is how these fit in the Neuro 9. All the greens are leafy greens. We've got our cruciferous veggies with the cauliflower, broccoli, red cabbage. Mushrooms are in Thoughtful 20. Beets are in Thoughtful 20. Our legumes can be our cooked beans, lentils, or our soy. Pumpkin and hemp seeds are in seeds. Quinoa is a whole grain. And of course, you can vary the salad ingredients anyway for your taste. But this is the main take-home point. A daily salad with raw and cooked ingredients is a terrific way to check off the Neuro 9 healthiest foods. Now, we also have another salad video on our YouTube. I shouldn't say another. We have a salad video on our YouTube that actually came from the Sharzai's, one of their recipes, which was a kale salad with roasted garbanzo beans and a tahini dressing. And we massage the kale so it gets real soft. In case some of you are like, oh, I can't eat kale. That texture is too hard. Watch the video. And it's absolutely a delicious salad. So I want to just give you a couple tips on how to make it easy to eat these foods every day. So I'm just through now with giving you some of those examples of how you can construct your daily diet with all the Neuro 9 foods and some of the Thoughtful 20. But, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by all this, this is how you can make it easier for yourself. So consider making like 2 of your daily meals to be pretty similar throughout the week, because that's what I do and it really works well. So for example, like I said, I eat pretty much the same breakfast every day, my oatmeal bowl and then my beans and greens. That's my beginning of my day. And then at night, I typically eat the same thing too. My last meal is not it's a more lower calorie dense meal with a salad. And so I will eat the salad like I just gave you an example, or we make our own homemade soy yogurt in an Instant Pot, and then I'll put a lot of fruit in that with flaxseed, and that could be my dinner. So, those 2 things, are pretty easy to do. Once you start doing that, it's like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. So really, it's lunch for me, which is the main meal that might vary more throughout the week. It might be a curry or a stew or a soup or a plant-based burger. There's like unbelievably so many choices. And that's what a lot of our food is on our YouTube channel. Our cooking videos would be a lot of these dishes that you could use, for your lunch. And so I encourage you to browse our channel for that. And if you want to learn how to make your own soy yogurt, we just released a video for that, which shows you how to do that. It's actually delicious Greek style thick yogurt. Georgie figured out a straining method to make it really thick. And it's absolutely delicious. So if you want to learn how, go and check out that video. All right. And then finally, if you're still eating an omnivore diet, you haven't really yet gotten into this whole food plant-based lifestyle, I just want to give you a couple ideas on how you can make this switch, so you can get these Neuro 9 foods in your body. So let's say you've been making beef chili throughout your life. Well, instead, make a 3-bean chili instead, all plants. Instead of scrambled eggs, make scrambled tofu. And we do have a video on that on our channel. Instead of carnita tacos, make lentil tacos. Instead of a chicken stir fry, make a tofu stir fry. Instead of pasta alfredo, with that saturated fat from all that dairy, and I used to call that a heart attack dish. Make a creamy sauce instead with raw cashews and or white beans. Instead of a hamburger, make a black bean burger or a beet burger. Instead of dairy ice cream, make nice cream. So I'm almost at the end of my presentation, but I just want to give you a few little other tips about how you make this lifestyle a little bit easier. And one reason is you use certain appliances. So the Instant Pot, we have like 4 of them now. We actually bought a couple at a thrift store we volunteer at. It's just a wonderful appliance because you can batch cook, meaning, like I said, you can make a whole pot of beans or a whole pot of whole grains and then have that in your fridge for several days. And then when you want to make some other recipes, and we have these on our channel, just throw everything in, walk away, let it cook, and then come back. You don't have to keep going to the stove and stirring, wondering, is things okay, or do you have to lower the temperature? The Instant Pot is just so easy. Our house, we're only 2 people here, and we found that the 6-quart really works well for us. And as I said, it makes yogurt as well. Another really great appliance is what's called a high-powered blender, because it's a very powerful motor that will help make plant-based sauces, soups, and smoothies smooth and creamy. And so Vitamix and Blendtex are popular brands. Now they are very pricey, and I had to think long and hard to spend that money. But what I realized is that when I went to the Vitamix website, they actually sell refurbished ones for a lower cost. So that's what we bought, and it's been working well for us for many years. And the last appliance that I would suggest is a food processor. Again, we buy ours at thrift stores. Again, they're very easy to find there, at least where I am in Tucson. And it's very useful for making recipes like burgers, your nice cream, and chopping and shredding veggies. Just a couple condiments, in case you're not familiar with them, that really add flavor to our plant-based food. So the first one is nutritional yeast. We're not eating cheese anymore. And that's, of course, one of the things that people always say when they want to switch. Oh, how can I give up my cheese, right? They're so addicted to that. But nutritional yeast is a wonderful, it's just like this powdery, flaky item. But when you put that into your food, it adds this very cheesy, umami flavor to your food. Now, it's not going to taste like regular cheese, but it will kind of simulate that flavor for you. And it'll be so much more healthy than eating any kind of dairy cheese, with that saturated fat and animal protein. And of course, no fiber. And then we have low sodium tamari, like soy sauce, but a lot of people feel it's a richer flavor. I've been using this for 40 years. It's also gluten-free if you have that issue. So I would recommend that, but always get the low sodium because these sauces are higher in salt. Another one is called coconut liquid aminos. This one is soy-free, and it offers a salty and sweet taste because it has coconut nectar in it. So it can add a really nice flavor. Like, for example, we'll make pan-fried tofu, and we'll just add in a little tamari and a little bit of this coconut aminos. We show that in that tofu video I showed you that's on our YouTube channel. And that gives a really nice flavor. And then tahini, which maybe you know because you eat hummus, and tahini is often ingredient in hummus, which is made out of sesame seeds. So it's a yummy paste. It's a healthy fat for you, and it can be great for salad dressing, sauces, and like I said, hummus. So as you can see, there's an abundance of wonderful, healthy food to enjoy when eating a whole food vegan diet. So I hope you'll begin to incorporate more plant dishes in your life and reap the healthy benefits. And you know what? Even if you're not sure if this eating plan is right for you, because you haven't started this yet, you're kind of thinking about it. The Sharzais would say, and so many of our other doctors like Dr. Neil Bernard, give it a month. See how you feel. You will like, if you really do it for a month, you will likely feel benefits and you'll decide to continue your whole food vegan journey. And to help you, I hope you'll subscribe to our Happy Vegan Couple on YouTube and check out the delicious and healthy whole food plant-based cooking videos we've produced to show you how easy it is to cook these great dishes. You know, and if you do subscribe and you hit that little notification bell to let you know every time we put out a new video, please know we will never overwhelm you. We're not doing it all the time. We have other things we do in your life. Like I told you, I'm in bands. I got to play my percussion. I got to practice music. So we won't overwhelm you. But what we have on there, I think, is very helpful videos. So I just wanted to give you the contact information for Doctors Aisha and Dean Sharzai, because there's different places, you know, you can find them. So their website is thebraindocs.com, and I really encourage you to go to their website because you will see all the offerings they have. They have some wonderful offerings, even a paid program. If you really want to get with them on a very regular basis with a community, you can find out about their NEURO Academy. They're also on YouTube with a lot of videos. Again, it's called the Brain Docs. Now, they've gone through some iterations of their names, but the latest name they use is the Brain Docs. They actually have a new podcast. They have an old podcast as well, but the newest one is called Your Brain On Podcast. So look for that. Very interesting interviews with other people about, you know, different respects regarding your brain. You will learn so much if you follow these two, so I hope you will. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me. My email is derose@comcast.net. And I just want to say big, big, big thanks to Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group and its volunteers who I worked with to help schedule this today. And I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share this presentation. And I hope you found it informational and helpful. And with that, I'm done and I'm going to stop my share. And if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer.
Oh, thank you. To everybody in attendance, let's just take a moment and thank Denise. What a absolutely wonderful presentation. So you could see, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then
Thank you.
I just want to add a few things if I could.
Sure.
Denise, I would like you to give me a call next week so we could talk. I am interested in taking your videos onto our platform and sharing them and linking them back to you, but we'll talk about that next week.
Great.
Give me a call, your convenience. To everybody out there, get a pencil ready. I'm going to share two very, very quick recipes that are life-changing. Well, you know, it's pretty amazing when I could say life-changing. All right, I'm going to give it a moment. And as I do that, I'm going to underscore the beautiful thing about whole food plant-based, and that's coming from me, who quite honestly hates to cook, is when you batch cook, get serious. Like I made soup the other day, vegetable barley soup, and I made enough for 12 meals, you know, big pot, but everything whole food plant-based freezes beautifully. So just keep that in mind when you're cooking. All right, I've got two recipes to share. First, I could show you this, but if I did, there we go. We could maybe see it. It's my tea, okay? So every day I have, you know, I sip on tea during the day, and it's kind of an infused water tea. So here's the recipe. I take 4 bags of hibiscus tea. Make sure it's hibiscus. And I put that in a pitcher, and then I add fruit. So I cut up my fruit. So I'll have a cut up apple, a cut up orange. I may sometimes have grapes. You choose the fruit you like. Me personally, it's apples and oranges. And then I fill it up with water. I put it in the refrigerator, and within like 12 hours, it looks green. And when you drink it, instead of having just water all day, you could have infused water with hibiscus tea. So that's simple. It's a little different. It's very refreshing. The next one is very quick as well. For those people who like tofu, Denise, you mentioned tofu, and my recipe is really 2 recipes. What I like to do is I take the tofu, I put it in a bag, I put a whole bunch of sriracha on it. I shake the bag. I put it in the oven. I do 400 for 20 minutes. And make sure you get the non-stick aluminum foil. And then I take them out. I flip them, put a little bit more of the sriracha on top, and put it on for 15 minutes. But just keep your eye. Every oven's a little different. And then I put it in a bag for the refrigerator, and I add that to my salads, the tofu, and it just tastes yummy. And if I want to go a different route, I combine, you had mentioned tamari. I use Bragg's amino. Okay, you may want to try that as well. It really gives I do, no salt. It really, really, maybe it's low salt or no salt, I'm not quite sure. But it's got that teriyaki taste or soy taste. And then I throw oranges in it. So I do a combination of orange and Bragg's amino, and I do the same process with my tofu. So that's it. I'm gonna take off, but I wanted to thank Sid so much for being here always for us and me. Denise, you'll give me a call. You did a phenomenal job. And welcome everybody to the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group. We're gonna keep having these meetings. And the last little thing is for anybody in Michigan or surrounding states, September 19th, we're having our first live event in 4 years. Dr. Neil Barnard is the featured speaker, but I've got some surprises. And if you want to be part of something, it's going to be magical because it's the first time in 4 years people are going to be reconnecting. I'm inviting everyone to join us. And if you're interested in tickets and they're going fast, go to the website to purchase. So thank you, everybody. Denise, give me a call. Much love to everybody. Thank you.
Denise, do you have time to answer a question
Oh
from the
yeah,
chat?
absolutely. I have as much time as you guys have and for a question. So
All
go.
right. Well, one question was, if you have excess weight to lose, should you hold off on ingesting the flax until you lose the weight? And she also mentions nuts and seeds and avocado. So if someone is trying to lose weight, should they go easy on those or avoid those high-fat foods?
So what I would share with that is, since the Sharzai say that we all need to have our omega-3 fatty acids every day, that I wouldn't skip the flaxseed, but you might want to limit the other high-fat foods, like some of the other nuts. You might want to, reduce that. That would be kind of similar to, if you know Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn's diet for heart disease reversal, his diet is extremely low fat. It's like no more than 10% fat. And a lot of times some of those people needed to lose weight as well. So, you can keep some of those. But I would probably, go for the flaxseed, because you want to get that, in your body, those omega-3 fatty acids. Those are really helpful. And, another thing about that, another doctor that I follow is Dr. Brooke Goldner, in case any of you have ever heard of her. Her specialty is helping people reverse autoimmune diseases. And she has this amazing protocol that helped her reverse her lupus many decades ago. And flaxseed is a big part of that protocol. There are actually these big smoothies that people have. It's basically a raw vegan diet for a while during healing. And she's actually says that those people have a lot of flax seeds, and that flax seeds helps ramp up your metabolism and really doesn't help you gain weight. She's talking particularly about the flax seed. So again, I wouldn't worry about that particular item. I would get that in your body, but maybe, don't use a lot of the nuts and seeds. And of course, you don't want to be cooking with oil, because that's just pure fat.
Okay. I'm not sure if Paul is still here. Someone was asking about places to stay in Michigan. But there's another question here. Isn't tamari high in sodium?
Yes, it is. And so that's why we buy the low sodium. And it still is, somewhat high. But here's the thing. I eat a whole food plant-based diet. So I don't eat processed foods. And most of the salt problems that most people have with hypertension is because they're eating processed foods that have all this salt in them. So if you basically cook cook your own food and restrict the salt shaker, not throwing it in all the time, you can have a little bit of salt. We need some salt. Well, we need iodine for our thyroid. So personally, I don't worry at all about having a little bit of the tamari, the salt in that. I don't worry about that at all because I don't get a lot of salt in anything else. Now, if you have a
Okay.
particular issue, you may not want to use that, and you might want to just do like the amino acids that Paul was talking about. And that's probably very similar to the one that I showed that had the coconut nectar.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if the Schurzey's, when it comes to fats, because we want to eat low fat, right? You mentioned it up front, low fat, whole food, plant-based. Do they recommend a percentage of fat or the number of fat grams per day, or do they not go into that detail?
Yeah, I don't recall them like doing like a 10% or 10 to 20%, that kind of thing. But the main thing that they say is, they do say this in the book, that if you're at a normal weight, that whole fat equation is not so important to you, as long as the fat you're eating is a healthy source of fat, not a saturated fat or a trans fat, right? So if you're eating monounsaturated or polyunsaturated, like in our avocados or our nuts and seeds. And then they would say, if you are a person who is not at a healthy weight and you need to lose weight, then you're going to want to limit some of those higher fat foods because they will bring you more calories. So, that's kind of how they address that.
Okay, let's take one last question here. Do you have a recommendation for decaf green tea?
I don't.
Okay, I mean, I've seen it in the stores. I've seen it, like Lipton or something, but I don't know what quality of tea that would be, but
Right. The only thing that I would say about, quality of tea, and it's not about whether it's caffeinated or decaffeinated, but if you're going to drink green tea, there's different ways you can buy it. You can just go buy a tea bag, and like that, a green tea bag. But there's also something called matcha, MATCHA, which is actually the tea ground up into powder. And that's actually considered more nutritious than just having the tea in a tea bag. So that's what I buy. I buy the matcha, and then I just take a little bit of that powder and put it in my mug with the hot water, and that's how I enjoy it. Now, I can answer more questions, I mean, if there's time, but if there isn't, I understand.
all right. Well, that was the last question I saw. There were a lot of people commenting. They enjoyed the presentation. It was very informative. So yeah, everyone go to Denise's YouTube channel and check her out, her and her husband. Sounds like they're doing some fabulous cooking demos there. You can always watch the replay of this again, and I encourage you to share this with your friends and family to introduce them to PBNSG as well. And as members here for only $10 a month, you have access to a lot of other live talks from doctors and experts such as Denise. And so I encourage you to think about that too. Denise, are there any parting words you'd like to share with us before we say goodnight?
Well, I would just say, follow the Schurzey's. They are really wise, intelligent people. And here's even an example of like what I find amazing about them. Not even them. They have 2 children that are like in their upper teens now. Would you know, both of their kids started college when they were high school age. They have brilliant children. And, that for me, that kind of just reflects, again, how wise, knowledgeable, intelligent the Schurzey's are. They're not only doctors, they're researchers, and they're so committed to social advocacy for brain health. So if you want to protect your brain, pay attention to their knowledge, their advice, and get these foods in your body. Other than that, check out my YouTube channel because you'll find some really good recipes to cook. And hopefully we can help you get that food in your body. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate the opportunity.